Greetings, everyone. It is I, Curtis Selby, your tired midnight blogger, what blogs in this case, at 6:02 p.m. Hail to everyone in the chat. Let's greet everybody here. Greetings, John Potterero. Good evening to you, good sir. Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Can you start now? Your favorite woman hater is here. We are getting started indeed. And Connie Cleary, hail to thee. Sadly, this will be a lot drier than your wonderful comedic films that you play. But you know what? That's why everyone comes here, to be bored to tears with pedantic, scholarly stuff. I don't want to talk about politics today. I'm only going to mention that Trump has won the election. I do not feel any desire to gloat over anyone because I was against Trump for a long time myself, and I know how I would feel if someone rubbed my nose in it. I'm not going to do that. Don Potterero walked in on an econ test after being up all night studying for organic chemistry. Got like a 30% and failed the course. Professor wouldn't let me drop it. There are several things like that helped ruin my college career. All right, let's let the music go. Let me know how the sound is for you. It's a little loud in my ear, but it was very quiet on one of Charlotte's streams. So that's why I have it up so loud. Let me know how it works. Good evening, LDG Free the Net. Welcome. I hope you are doing well. I hope the app is coming along well, and I look forward to the day when we can go and free ourselves from the oligarchs that govern the big tech companies. While y'all are at it, please feel free to check out his webpage. He's got something exciting going on. And while you're at it also, visit Gorilla's Random Thoughts. I believe he's either just gotten monetized or is just a very few hours from it. So please give him a visit. Maybe watch a video or two, help him get there. And Connie Cleary, the faithful bird woman of YouTube. Several of you are wrenches, but she is one of the best. Please give her channel some love and watch some great videos about birds. Mostly, but not entirely, accompanied by Enya music. Gorilla's Random Thoughts came here because I can make a joke and everyone laughs. Nobody here calls me a misogynist, racist, genocidal piece of crap like the other political chats I've been in. No, I try really hard. You know, I think you all know that for a long time I've been over to be centrist, and I no longer am doing that, but I'm still trying to bend over backwards to be reasonable, to be fair. I don't think we're going to heal anything by calling each other names or anything like that. And yeah, Gorilla's Random Thoughts. YouTube is screwing me as well. I know I probably shouldn't admit to this, but I have a couple of people who are watching or had been watching me nearly 24/7 to try to help me out. And most of those hours are not being applied. So I don't know what YouTube is thinking. I know that they probably think that we're bots, but I would think that you could tell if we were bots, we would be growing a hell of a lot faster than we are. But actually, LDG knows better about that. He's the tech guru in here. And Real Wade Nation Gaming Clips. Hello, howdy. And check out his channel as well, where you will get fantastic gaming clips. So all right, let's go ahead, dive into the topic. It's a little bit of a boring one, but the poll last week, you all wanted me to talk about economics, so I shall so do. I do not promise to be the biggest expert in economics, but I took 3 courses in college for what that may or may not be worth. I know that's kind of like saying, oh, you took a college credit in programming. Ooh. But, and hello, Big Al Presents. Howdy. I hope you are doing well. Check this gentleman's channel out as well. He is the father, the founder, the creator of the 10-word review. He honestly nails it better with 10 words than I usually do with 10 paragraphs. So check him out. The topic today is economics. I know, what could be more boring than even politics? Or less. Yes, that's right, John. But the truth is, economics is very salient to a lot of our arguments. The classic argument has been classical economics that are espoused largely by Republicans, or were until recently, and Keynesian economics, which were largely espoused by the Democrats. And again, largely until recently. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but things have really radically changed. Maybe for good, maybe for ill. I think most of us feel like things have changed for the bad, but I don't know that I'm smart enough to say. All I know is I took these courses, I loved them. I didn't exactly ace them, but I did make A's in all of these courses. The courses I took were microeconomics, macroeconomics, and managerial economics. And while I'm not the most well-read person in the subject at all, I have tried to at least read a little bit on the topic. Back when I did follow politics really closely, I listened to a lot of different arguments back and forth about Reaganomics, and I can still remember Bush Sr. calling Reaganomics voodoo economics. So we're going to dive into a little bit of that. My economics comes from my wallet. Yeah, and that's the truth. That's where most of us are at. And not many of us have the privilege of just printing money for free. Now I'm going to try to be done by about 8:30 or 9, and maybe even earlier if you've got something going, Gorillas, because I want people who aren't going to Gorillas to go to Netter's Network and see her Thursday things. But when it comes to economics, there's several different schools. We've already discussed the differences between capitalism and socialism and communism. I won't go very deeply into that, but obviously capitalism is where most of the means of production are privately owned, either by very wealthy people or by corporations. And therefore, most of the profits go to the wealthy people or the corporations. Socialism is kind of a mix where a large portion of the means of production are owned by the government, but not all of it. And then communism, obviously, virtually all means of production are owned by the government. And in theory, profits are spread equally-ish amongst the people. And we basically established, I feel like we pretty strongly established that communism is right out. We can probably still have a debate about socialism and capitalism, but communism, yeah, just right out. And no, it's okay. Yeah. Hi to everyone who's saying hi to me. No, it's okay. It's okay. I get that you're busy, LDG. I'm just glad that you're here. Hopefully some of this is meaningful. Some of it learn a little bit maybe, and maybe I'm smart enough to make it mildly entertaining. I'm going to start with classical economics because honestly, I've tended to lean harder into classical economics myself, which may make me a dinosaur, but also because it's the oldest. Gorillas Random Thoughts, we are watching Fantastic Bestiality and Where to Find Them. Okay. Maybe that's what I should have advertised this stream as. Fantastic Bestiality made easy for the masses. So, classical economics is a broad term, refers to the dominant school of the thought for economics in the 18th and 19th centuries. Let's go ahead and get the definition of economics itself. It's social science focusing on the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. The study of economics is primarily concerned with analyzing the choices that individuals, businesses, governments, and nations make to allocate limited resources. Economics has ramifications on a wide range of other fields, including politics, psychology, business, and law. We had also talked a little bit about the different federations in science fiction and how, at least personally, I think that as much as I love the Star Trek ideal, the only way we can realistically have an economy like that is with the advantages that the Star Trek universe has. In other words, immense amounts of clean-ish energy, or at least containable energy, and also massive replication capacity. And then it becomes realistic. Most consider Scottish economist Adam Smith the progenitor of classical economic theory. However, Spanish scholastics and French physiocrats made earlier contributions. Other notable contributors to classical economics include David Ricardo, not to be confused with the one from I Love Lucy, Thomas Malthus, and Robert Jacques Turgot, John Stuart Mill, Jean-Baptiste Say, and Eugene Bohm von Boerk. The key takeaways: classical economic theory is a school of thought for economics developed shortly after the birth of Western capitalism. Classical economic theory helped countries to migrate from monarchic rule to capitalistic democracies with self-regulation. So classical economics is very key to the development of the republics and democracies that came after the times of the monarchies. Did I miss someone, or am I missing a joke? Hey, oh yes, hey Lucy, I've already forgot my own joke. Adam Smith's 1776 release of The Wealth of Nations, and to my shame, I have not read it. I've read some portions of it, but I have not read the whole thing. Highlights some of the most prominent developments in classical economics. Classical economic theories explain value, price, supply, demand, and distribution. Classical economics was eventually replaced with more updated ideas such as Keynesian economics, which called for more government intervention. So there's the rub. You like government intervention, you'll likely be a Keynesian economist. If you don't like government intervention, odds are decent that you will be a classical economist. Understanding classical economics. Self-regulating democracies and capitalistic market developments form the basis for classical economics. Before the rise of classical economics, most national economies followed a top-down, command and control, monarchic government policy system. Many of the most famous classical thinkers, including Smith and Turgot, developed their theories as alternatives to the protectionist and inflationary policies of mercantilist Europe. Classical economics become closely associated with economic and later political freedom. The rise of classical economics. Classical economic theory was developed shortly after the birth of Western capitalism and the Industrial Revolution. I remember reading a short story from the 1400s about this man who builds a factory and becomes wealthy, and he's able to hire a bunch of knights and stuff, and he basically becomes a noble. So yeah, capitalism was a godsend to them back in the 1400s. Moira Kitty, meow meow, welcome to the channel, and well met. I hope you are doing well, and everybody check her channel out as well. You will learn a lot of things that maybe you may wish you hadn't, but it's necessary that we all keep our eyes open. So check out her channel. Welcome, welcome. I'm babbling about economics, and I don't know how fascinating this is going to be, but this is what people wanted me to talk about, so this is what we'll talk about. Classical economists provided the best early attempts at explaining capitalism's inner workings. The earliest classical economists developed theories of value, price, supply, demand, and distribution. Nearly all rejected government interference with market exchanges, preferring a looser market strategy known as laissez-faire. Technically speaking, laissez-faire basically means government doesn't interfere at all. And I don't think I've ever quite been there. But, Gorilla's random thoughts. Is it Chicago that rules on the vote? Good question. Good question. Classical thinkers were not completely unified in their beliefs or understanding of markets, although there were notable common themes in most classical literature. The majority favored free trade and competition among workers and businesses. Classical economists wanted to transition away from class-based social structures in favor of meritocracies. And that is something I'm keen on, is whatever kind of society we build, I'm pretty keen on making them meritocracies of some kind. The decline of classical economics. The classical economics of Adam Smith had drastically evolved and changed by the 1880s and 1890s, but its core remained intact. By that time, the writings of German philosopher Karl Marx had emerged to challenge the policy prescriptions of the classical school. However, Marxian economics made very few lasting contributions to economic theory. I would argue maybe in the West, yes, but Russia, China, and several other nations, possibly Chicago, are still very keen on listening to and spreading Marxian economics. A more thorough challenge to classical theory emerged in the 1930s and 1940s through the writings of British mathematician John Maynard Keynes. Keynes was a student of Alfred Marshall and admirer of Thomas Malthus. Keynes thought that free market economies tended toward underconsumption and underspending. Let me know what you think about that. He called this the crucial economic problem and used it to criticize high interest rates and individual preferences for saving. Keynes also refuted Say's law of markets, which we can look into if we want to, but I'm going to keep going for a bit. Keynesian economics advocated for a more controlling role for central governments in economic affairs, which made Keynes popular with British and American politicians. Imagine that. Gorilla's random thoughts, because if it's Chicago rules for the poll, I got 7 ballots here to submit for the vote on the next topic. Well, if you can get YouTube to let you vote 7 times, I'm all for it. Let me take a look at that poll for what it's worth. We got a vote or two anyway. Right now, it's 50% want me to talk about the need for meritocracy, 25% want to watch Party of They Live, and 25% want me to discuss why Trump won. All right. Let's see what it looks like at the end. After the Great Depression and World War II, Keynesianism had replaced classical and neoclassical economics as the dominant intellectual paradigm among world governments. And I may be misunderstanding Reaganomics, but I think that's one of the key elements was he felt we had gone too deeply into Keynesianism and maybe needed to be a little more classical. Again, I may be oversimplifying his thought. Real-world example, Adam Smith's 1776 release of The Wealth of Nations highlights some of the most prominent developments in classical economics. His revelation centered around free trade and a concept called the invisible hand. I don't know if any of you have read the Foundation trilogy, but he talks about something similar, Isaac Asimov does, in those books, which served as the theory for the beginning stages of domestic and international supply and demand. This theory, the dual and competing forces of demand side and sell side, moves the market to price and production equilibrium. Smith's studies helped promote domestic trade and led to more efficient and rational pricing in the product markets based on supply and demand. What are the assumptions of classical economics? The central assumption of classical economics is that the economy is self-regulating and that little to no government intervention is needed, which is very similar to what the libertarians say. If a need were to arise within an economy, classical economists might say, it would be filled by a market participant. I think most of you know that argument. A need comes along, like a need for Hendrick's gin, and somebody comes along, an entrepreneur, and if he's clever and lucky and somehow figures out how to hornswoggle people into investing and working to develop his gin, then he sells it and makes a big bunch of money. But in so doing, he's also added a concurrent value to the people involved. That's the theory upon which capitalism stands or falls, is do the entrepreneurs give that concurrent value to the world at large, or do they just simply suck value out of the economy and bloat on it themselves, which is the socialist and communist argument, but not necessarily Keynesian argument. The best known classical economist is Adam Smith, who wrote The Wealth of Nations. The difference between classical and Keynesian economics was founded, classical economics was founded on an assumption that free markets can be self-regulating, and it primarily rejected the idea of significant government interference. Keynesian economics, on the other hand, calls for increased government involvement, primarily in driving aggregate demand to buoy the economy. For what it's worth, a great number of the founding fathers were classical economists. Now, partly that's because that was, I don't know about the only, but it was easily the best theory in town at the time. But nearly all of the founding fathers, as far as they thought about economics at all, were classical economists. The bottom line, classical economics refers to the dominant school of economic thought that emerged during the 18th and 19th centuries. It favors free trade, competition, little to no government interference in markets. Prior to the development of classical economics, many markets were directed in a top-down manner. You know, the king would tell you how much armor to make, and if it was possible, you made it, so on and so on. Thus, classical economics became closely linked with economic and political freedom. Blah, blah, blah. I don't care about their advice. So that is classical economics. I thought I was sharing that, but I didn't. But I read it to you, so there it goes. I will, however, share the next one because eventually I wake up. Most of this information I'm getting from Investopedia because I wanted to get it from something that was at least mildly centrist. Keynesian economics is a macroeconomic theory of total spending in the economy and its effects on output, employment, and inflation. Now, macroeconomics was what fascinated me the most. Basically, microeconomics is, I'm going to be a little overly simplified. I should probably look up the technical definition, but it's essentially smaller economies. In other words, the economy of a single industry, which you're saying is smaller, but it is small compared to, you know, world economics or United States government economics. Basically, economics between businesses, between industries, between cities and municipalities. It's arguable where it becomes macroeconomics, but obviously the global economy, the United States national federal economy, most of your national economies, those are the macroeconomics, and they're fascinating studies. And I really wish that congressmen had to pass a macroeconomics course before they got to serve. Tim, welcome, welcome. The old man is Ludwig von Mises, about whom I shall speak shortly. Gorilla's random thoughts. Basically, Saudi Arabia's economy. Yeah, that would be macroeconomics. Arguably, you might say that some of the smaller nations are too small to really be dealt with macroeconomics. But I personally always kind of held that the line is at nationalities and maybe larger states like California. It's a macroeconomic theory of total spending in the economy, its effects on output, employment, and inflation. It was developed by British economist John Maynard Keynes during the 30s in an attempt to deal with the effects of the Great Depression. The central belief of Keynesian economics is that government intervention can stabilize the economy, whereas classical economics largely argues that it really can't. Keynes' theory was the first to sharply separate the study of economic behavior and individual incentives from the study of broad aggregate variables and constructs. Based on his theory, Keynes advocated for increased government expenditures and lower taxes. This is the part that the Dems don't embrace. They're all about those increased government expenditures. But the lowering taxes, no, we don't like to talk about that. To stimulate demand and pull the global economy out of the depression. Subsequently, Keynesian economics was used to refer to the concept that optimal economic performance could be achieved and economic slumps could be prevented by influencing aggregate demand through economic intervention by the government. Keynesian economists believe that such intervention can result in full employment and price stability. What do you think about that? Gorilla's random thoughts. Their only export is oil. I have a snarky comment that I'm going to refrain from making, not against you, Gorillas, but against Saudi Arabia. But I would suggest they have one other, but it's kind of a rude, crude thing for me to say. Tim is a laissez-faire type of guy to a point. Yeah. And likely you're more laissez-faire than me, although not necessarily so. But I tend to believe, after looking at the way that things have gone in my lifetime, I do want government regulation as far as let's keep things safe, let's not allow poisoned food and things like that. But Gorilla's random thoughts. Okay, well, I guess the thing I was going to say is I think they also export terrorism, but that's probably unfair of me to say and probably going to get my channel blocked. Anyway, Keynesian economics advocates using active government policy to manage aggregate demand to address or prevent economic recessions. The thrust of Keynesian economics is that government intervention can support and strengthen the economy. John Maynard Keynes developed his theories in response to the Great Depression. He was highly critical of previous economic theories, which he referred to as classical economics. Activist, fiscal, and monetary policies are the primary tools recommended by Keynesian economists to manage the economy and fight unemployment. So, John says he's fairly lazy. I resemble that lately. Keynesian economics represented a new way of looking at spending output and inflation. Previously, classical economic thinking held that cyclical swings in employment and economic output create profit opportunities that individuals and entrepreneurs would have an incentive to pursue. In so doing, they would correct imbalances in the economy. I am going to say one thing here. There are people who are just brilliant at making fortunes during down times. One of the strongest hedge funds ever created, the Templeton hedge fund, was started with a really minimal investment. And at the end of World War II, the guy just basically went around and bought a bunch of undervalued European and Japanese real estate and businesses. Everyone thought he was crazy and was going to go bankrupt, and instead he became incredibly wealthy and made a lot of other people incredibly wealthy. He just had the knack for knowing how and when to do it. I probably would have bought those businesses and they would have all caved. Tim believes at some point companies and one person does have too much power and too much wealth. I'm a little hesitant to agree, but I do agree. I definitely agree that that there are some companies and some people who have too much power. Understanding Keynesian economics. Okay, let's skip down to here. According to Keynes' view of the so-called classical theory, if aggregate demand in the economy fell, the resulting weakness in production and jobs would precipitate a decline in prices and wages, which is pretty standard thought. Basically, if for whatever reason people just aren't buying a bunch of the stuff you're making, you're going to slow down production. You're going to lay people off. It's pretty much that simple. A lower level of inflation and wages would induce employers to make capital investments and employ more people, stimulating employment and restoring economic growth. Now, here's the thing I want to observe. I'm 100% okay with Democrats being Keynesian. I wish they would be Keynesian in truth, because rather than lowering levels of inflation, and I would give Bill Clinton this pass. I think he was really good with inflation. I hate giving the guy a pass on anything, but I think that he did a good job with handling inflation. But a lot of them seem to just think, let's print that money. And that's actually not Keynes' belief. You have to lower inflation, or else you're going to sink your economy. However, Keynes believed that the depth and persistence of the Great Depression severely tested this hypothesis. His disagreement with classical economics. In his book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, and other works, Keynes argued against this construct of classical theory, asserting that during recessions, business pessimism and certain characteristics of market economies would exacerbate economic weakness and cause aggregate demand to plunge further than it already had. For example, Keynesian economics disputes the notion held by some economists that lower wages can restore full employment because labor demand curves slope downward like any other normal demand curve. I won't go into it here, but they have spiffy formulas and curves and things like that. Not as wonderful as women's curves, but in theory, you can measure what the hell's going on with your economy and with your business and all that by looking at the curves of supply and demand. For example, Keynesian economics disputes the notion, I already read that. Similarly, poor business conditions may cause companies to reduce capital investment rather than take advantage of lower prices to invest in new plants and equipments. This also would have the effect of reducing overall expenditures and employment. It's rather similar to what FDR said. What we have to fear is fear itself. You get so afraid you're not willing to invest anymore. You clam up, you keep all your money hoarded to yourself, and it's not out there basically growing the rest of the economy. This is John Maynard Keynes. I neither heroize him nor villainize him because, like I say, I think that the Dems don't actually do the things that he recommended. DJ Ronnie G, yo. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the comment. Y'all check out DJ Ronnie G. He also has some very informative videos. Check him out. Keynesian economics and the Great Depression. Keynesian economics is sometimes referred to as Depression economics, as Keynes' general theory was written during a time of deep depression, excessive misery. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Gloom, despair, and agony on me. I had to. Anyway, his theory was not only about his native United Kingdom, but the depression was worldwide. The famous 1936 book was informed by Keynes' understanding of events arising during the Great Depression, which Keynes believed could not be explained by classical economic theory as he portrayed it in his book. Keynes' growing belief in government intervention. Other economists had argued that in the wake of any widespread downturn in the economy, businesses and investors take advantage of lower input prices in pursuit of their own self-interest would return output and prices to a state of equilibrium, unless otherwise prevented from doing so. Keynes believed that the Great Depression seemed to counter this theory. Everybody saying hello. John Ponderero knows the song I was singing. You know, when I was young, I wanted to compile a album, like one of those Time Life albums of the 40 best songs of the 70s. I wanted to have the 40 most depressing songs of all time, and I wanted that to be the very last one. Oh well. Equilibrium. Output was low and unemployment remained high during this time. The Great Depression inspired Keynes to think differently about the nature of the economy. From these theories, he established real-world applications that could have implications for a society in economic crisis. Keynes rejected the idea that the economy would return to a natural state of equilibrium. Instead, he argued that once an economic downturn sets in for whatever reason, the fear and gloom that it engenders among businesses and investors will tend to become self-fulfilling and can lead to a sustained period of depressed economic activity and unemployment. In response to this, Keynes advocated a counter-cyclical fiscal policy, by which during periods of economic woe, the government should undertake deficit spending to make up for the decline in investment and boost consumer spending to stabilize aggregate demand. Now, let me stress, his theory is to do that when times are bad, but not all of the time. Gorillas, have you been censored again? I'm sorry. Freaking YouTube. All right. Criticism of existing government policy and personal saving. Keynes was highly critical of the British government at the time. The government greatly increased welfare spending and raised taxes to balance the national books. See, again, that they espouse Keynes and then do the opposite of what he says to do. Keynes said this would not encourage people to spend their money. Now think of the irony of that. Classical economists and Keynesian economists, keep your taxes as low as you reasonably can. But we're not going to do that. We're going to tax the crap out of you people. YouTube doesn't like the truth. Yeah, I'm thankful for the free platform, but I am kind of discouraged right now. I feel like several of us should have a lot higher watch hours than we have. And I'm not saying that to complain to the community, because I know you guys are frankly watching me more than I deserve to be watched. But anyway, and I know Gorillas, you're experiencing the same, or at least a similar thing. But yeah, imagine that. Raising taxes does not encourage people to spend money. Keynes also criticized the idea of excessive saving, unless it was for a specific purpose, such as retirement, or education. He saw it as dangerous for the economy because more money sitting stagnant meant less money in the economy stimulating growth. This view was tied to another of Keynes' theories geared toward preventing deep economic depressions. Gorilla's random thoughts. I haven't even seen anything. Have any of you mods seen anything of Gorilla's popping up and not being typed? Because I've been focusing on the StreamYard portion. Sorry. Darr. And now looking at my poll again, why Trump won is now neck and neck with the need for meritocracy. 40% each, 20% want a watch party of They Live. But no, Gorillas, all I can say is I haven't seen, I don't think I've seen whatever you were trying to type. So my bad maybe, because sometimes when you moderate, you'll see something being held back, and 9 times out of 10, I just click to let it go through unless it is something that really is like insulting. Keynesian economics. Many economists have criticized Keynes' approach. They argue that businesses responding to economic incentives will tend to return the economy to a state of equilibrium unless the government prevents them from doing so by interfering with prices and wages and making it appear as though the market is self-regulating. And that's the delicate argument. And I tend to be more classical than Keynesian, but I do know that there's times when you'll have somebody who's cornered a market or has become virtually a monopoly, and then it's not government regulation that's preventing it. It's that monopoly. But that may be outside of the scope of this discussion. On the other hand, Keynes, who was writing while the world was mired in a long-standing period of deep economic depression, was not as optimistic about the natural equilibrium of the market. He believed that the government was in a better position than market forces when it came to creating a robust economy. Keynes proposed that the government spend more money, which the government loves to do, and cut taxes, which at least honestly both sides seem to hate to do. The Republicans say they want to cut them, and sometimes they do, and sometimes the Dems do. I mean, I remember Clinton cutting taxes. I'm not saying that to praise him. I didn't like the guy. I didn't vote for the guy. But I gotta be intellectually honest. The economy was rolling pretty good in his time, whether due to him or not. It was rolling pretty good until the tech.com bubble burst. That's neither here nor there. This would in turn lead to an increase in overall economic activity and a reduction in unemployment. Keynesian economics and fiscal policy. The multiplier effect developed by Keynes student Richard Kahn is one of the chief components of the Keynesian counter-cyclical fiscal policy. You didn't know it, but one of the arch villains from Star Trek helped develop Keynesian economics. All I said was, I thought the only thing Clinton was good at was ticking a cigar. No, yeah, I am begrudging because I really don't want to give him the credit for it. But all I'm saying is, it's like when, I'm having a senior moment. The Fox reporter that was fighting with Trump for so long, and then Megyn Kelly. When Megyn Kelly was on the Bill Maher show the other day, she was talking about how Trump had a great economy, and Bill Maher's response was, yeah, well, he inherited it from Obama. And her response, I don't know that it was perfect, but I think it was on point. So we can thank Obama for Trump's economy, but we can't thank Trump for anything. And I guess that's where I'm trying to go with that. Clinton was definitely not. I have lots of criticisms of him, but I'm trying to be intellectually honest. Whether it was him or whether it was the Republican legislature at the time, or whether it was just that businesses were using their head, or just that the Reaganomics had actually built something strong, or the end of communism. I mean, hell, maybe just that stability of we're not going to have a nuclear war. That alone may have caused it. But the economy was pretty strong at the time. I frankly wish it would go back to something like that. Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Yes, sticking cigars in his secretary's sphincters. It came across that time. Ha ha! YouTube made me have to butcher that whole joke. I'm sorry. Partisans always say that when it's the opponent who is doing well. Yeah, yeah. When Biden did poorly, they blame Trump for that. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, at some point, I if you want to blame Trump for the first, say, 2 years, I'll listen to that. But by the third and fourth year, you've been the president. If you are able to fix it, you should have been able to do it by now. Yeah, when Biden did poorly, blame Trump. When Trump did well, credit Obama. Blame Bush for Obama's bad economy, etc. Yeah, here's the deal. They talk about how strong Obama's economy was. I'm sorry, I must live in bizarro world because I honestly, from 9/11 until 2016, the economy was a big ball of crap. I don't know how many of you can remember this. Some of you have great tech skills, so maybe you were in a different boat, but I couldn't find a decent job for love or money or threats or anything. I found jobs. I kept a roof over our heads. My ex-wife never knew a day in her life that she had less than $1,000 in the bank. But trust me, it was not easy. It was painfully difficult. I often had to work 2 jobs. Sometimes she had to work as well. It was hell. But yet all of a sudden, when Trump has a good economy, well, it's because he inherited Obama's good economy. What? Okay, fine. And it may just be coincidental, but the best job I ever got in my life, I got under Trump's presidency. Again, it may just be, it likely is just coincidence. But anyway, I didn't mean to go into politics. The multiplier effect actually is an important concept. And it's one of the few things that if the Dems just would use it correctly, it would be a feather in their cap, but they don't use it correctly. According to Keynes, or in my humble opinion, they don't. Maybe I shouldn't pontificate so much here, but according to Keynes' theory of fiscal stimulus, an injection of government spending eventually leads to added business activity and even more spending. This theory proposes that spending boosts aggregate output and generates more income. If workers are willing to spend their extra income, the resulting growth in gross domestic product could be even greater than the initial stimulus amount. Hopefully, they say more about the Keynesian multiplier because it really is the strength, or to me, it's one of the strengths upon which the theory either stands or falls. The magnitude of the Keynesian multiplier is directly related to the marginal propensity to consume. Spending by consumers becomes income for businesses that then spend on equipment, worker wages, energy, materials, purchased services, taxes, and investor returns. Workers' income can then be spent and the cycle continues, which all makes perfect sense to me, that part anyway. Keynes and his followers believe that individuals should save less and spend more. which paradoxically enough, I don't know that I agree with that, but I understand his thinking. If you're spending more, then there's that much more money going into the business, which can then buy more equipment, so on and so on. I think where it breaks down, I don't I don't think it's individuals who should be saving less. I think it's businesses that should be saving less. But that's just my own thought, and I don't have enough information to really give you receipts on that. So take that with a great grain of salt. Keynes and his followers believed that individuals should save less and spend more, raising their marginal propensity to consume to affect full employment and economic growth. Now, I don't know if they'll point this out, but you notice what happened in the 40s and 50s and 60s. We became a massive consumption economy. You had to get a new car every 3 or 4 years. You had to get a new TV, and things were mostly booming. I mean, there were some recessions here and there, but through a lot of the 40s, most of the 50s, and at least the earliest parts of the 60s, we were rolling in dough. I often think that maybe we had hit a good balance between the classical and Keynesian thoughts. And also, let's face it, we were the power of the world and we were producing like crazy. And we had fairly good leadership. I would argue, at least better leadership than we have mostly had during my lifetime. Alternate views. Keynes' fiscal stimulus theory was the dominant paradigm in academic economics for decades. Eventually, though, other economists such as Milton Friedman and Murray Rothbard showed that the Keynesian model misrepresented the relationship between savings, investment, and economic growth. Many economists still rely on multiplier-generated models, although most acknowledge that fiscal stimulus is far less effective than the original multiplier model suggests. If memory serves, please remember, even though I got A's in these classes, it has been about 35 years. They used to teach that every dollar that the government puts into the economy is respent 5 times. This is one of the better arguments for welfare and for social programs. If the government gives you $1 in welfare, you buy bread with it, say, and then the store pays for the wholesaler's bread, and the wholesaler buys equipment for his business, and the equipment owner pays his workers, and then the workers go out and they buy groceries. That's the to me fairly legitimate argument. To me, it breaks down though when you hit a certain critical mass. When I was studying economics, the figures were that 60% of the American economy was consumption. So people like you and me buying things. I want to say 20 some percent was businesses. It's basically businesses taking our money and providing those goods and services with it. Roughly 20% was government. And then we had a trade deficit, because those are the 4 elements of an economy: is consumption, business, government, and trade with foreign nations. And now, the more you know. I have no idea. It depends on who you look at now. Left-wing statistics will tell you that we have roughly those same percentages. Right-wing statistics will often say that the government has grown to over 50% of the economy. To me, that's where it becomes dangerous. I know I'm okay with a fairly big government to a point, but I feel like if it really has gotten to be over 50% of the economy, then it's too big, because that means that 49% of taxes are trying to pay for 51% of spending. And that's really not kosher. It's not sustainable. The fiscal multiplier commonly associated with the Keynesian theory is one of two broad multipliers in economics. The other multiplier is known as the money multiplier, and I may be confusing the two of them. This multiplier refers to the money creation process that results from the system of fractional reserve banking. Yeah, I think I am confusing the two. It might be that I'm thinking of. The money multiplier is less controversial than its Keynesian fiscal counterpart. Sadly, I don't know about that myself. I'm no fan of the Fed. The only reason I got a new car every 3 or 4 years because I bought a cheap piece of crap, or I told them out. Yeah, I totally understand. I am hoping that I can at least get my car paid for before I try to get another one. I never had a car payment in my life until about 4 years ago. I had a car wreck and I had to have a car. So I borrowed the money and now here I am. Yay! According to the multiplier effect, $1 spent in fiscal stimulus eventually creates more than $1 in growth. And again, they used to teach, I can't remember which multiplier it is, but one of them they used to teach would create $5. So this appeared to be a coup for government economists, who could now provide justification for politically popular spending projects on a national scale. Keynesian economics and monetary policy. Keynesian economics focuses on demand-side solutions to recessionary periods. The intervention of government in economic processes is an important part of the Keynesian arsenal for battling unemployment, underemployment, and low economic demand. The emphasis on direct government intervention in the economy often places Keynesian theorists at odds with those who argue for limited government involvement in the markets. How it works. Wages and employment, Keynesians argue, are slower to respond to the needs of the market and require government intervention to stay on track. Furthermore, they argue prices do not react quickly and change only gradually when monetary policy interventions are made, giving rise to monetarism. If prices are slow to change, this makes it possible to use the money supply as a tool and change interest rates to encourage borrowing and lending. Lowering interest rates is one way that governments can meaningfully intervene in economic systems, thereby encouraging consumption and investment spending. Short-term demand growth initiated by interest rate cuts reinvigorates the economic system and restores employment and demand for services, the new economic activity that feeds continued growth and employment. Spending is key. Word. Do you want the Ron Paul or the Blue Paul? Right on, DJ Ronnie G. If I have the time, I will maybe discuss Ron Paul at least a little bit. Why is my mouse doing that? These tacos are organic, and these margaritas are going down smooth. Sweet. Spending is key. Without intervention, Keynesian theorists believe this cycle is disrupted, and market growth becomes more unstable and prone to excessive fluctuation. Keeping interest rates low is an attempt to stimulate the economic cycle by encouraging businesses and individuals to borrow more money. They then spend the money that they borrow. This new spending stimulates the economy. Lowering interest rates, however, does not always lead to directly to economic improvement. Wow, there's a lot to be said about Keynesianism. Downside of lowering rates. Monetarist economists focus on managing the money supply and lowering interest rates as a solution to economic woes, but they generally try to avoid the zero-bound problem. As interest rates approach zero, stimulating the economy by lowering interest rates becomes less effective because it reduces the incentive to invest, rather than simply hold money in cash or close substitutes like short-term treasuries. Interest rate manipulation may no longer be enough to generate new economic activity if it can't spur investment, and the attempt at generating economic recovery may stall completely. This is a type of liquidity trap. I don't know if y'all remember, but interest rates got so low at the end of the Obama administration, and I will give him this. At least he didn't do the thing Carter did of having massive inflation and massive interest rates. But yeah, they got so low that it had become nearly pointless to invest. Mikey Susie 4, hello, welcome. I hope you find some of this informative and entertaining, and I hope you've been doing well. I've been praying for you and yours. Curtis wants the RuPaul explanation. Orgasmic. Cool. Economic session. Now I can learn how to invest. Well, Sashi, hail man from the future. Please don't take my advice. I am not a true financial advisor. I did have a Series 6 license at one time, but I've let that lapse. Yeah, economics is something of a pet project of mine. And if I ever develop the capacity to invent the Star Trek economy, you guys will be the first to know. The woes of censorship, Gorilla. Right on, right on. All right. I am going to skip down just a bit because I don't know that you need or want to know all of this, and I want to get on to the other topics. What is monetarism? Monetarism is a macroeconomic theory stating that governments can foster economic stability by targeting the growth rate of the money supply. Closely associated with economist Milton Friedman, monetarism emphasizes the use of monetary policy over fiscal policy to manage aggregate demand, which contrasts with the theories of most Keynesian economists. In fact, the monetarism school of thought was developed as a rejection and criticism of Keynesian economics. The bottom line, John Maynard Keynes and Keynesian economics were revolutionary in the 30s and did much to shape post-World War II economies in the mid-20th century. His theories came under attack in the 1970s, saw a resurgence in the 2000s, and are still debated today. Keynesian economics recognizes the role of government in sparking aggregate demand. For instance, federal spending and tax cuts leave more money in people's pockets, which can stimulate demand and investment. And like free market economists, Keynesian economics welcomes limited government intervention and stimulus during times of recession. I hope you'll forgive me. I skipped the part about Obama, not because I want to criticize him, but I think we all know that he was a very strong, whether he was had a good economy or not, he was a strong Keynesian. And that's what I'm going to say about that. Low interest, at least you don't have negative interest like Japan. Well, I know we flirted with negative interest toward the end of the Obama presidency. Mikey Susie 4, hello, future traveler Sashi. I'm sorry that America made their decisions. Alas, we live with their mistakes and move on. YouTube can take my chat and shove it blankety blank. They will censor me again. I'm sorry. Hate that. I'm just here for a few minutes before I head to work. No, that is cool. Thank you for showing up and leaving the comment. Love you, brother. I hope you have a good day at work. So, the next theory that I want to play with is my favorite theory. even though I didn't learn it in college, and therefore I probably have a less perfect understanding of it than the other two. But yeah, Ron Paul did introduce me to the Austrian School of Economics. Let's talk about that and see what we think about it. And yes, DJ Ronnie G, it's always good to see Sashi. Always good to see Sashi. If you carry the popular impression that data-hungry economists are always busy with complex formulas and not with outside-the-box thinking, you should take a look at the Austrian school. Again, my source being Investopedia. Just like monks living in their monasteries, the economists of this school strive to solve complex issues, economic ones, by conducting thought experiments, which, if you remember, was one of the ways that Einstein developed his theory of relativity. Tom Woods introduced me to that. Oh, very cool. Very cool. The only smart person I saw on Glenn Beck's show. Yeah, I have mixed emotions about Glenn Beck. I used to like him and then I didn't. And now I'm just kind of like, yeah, he's there. And sometimes he says something cool and sometimes he doesn't. I'm exaggerating a bit, but yeah, I understand. Make sure, yes, please like, subscribe, share. I definitely need some watch hours. And I know Mikey Susie 4 has a wonderful channel as well. Please visit him. Watch some of his wonderful reviews of nostalgic 80s shows, Star Trek shows. He's got a wonderful channel too. Show Mikey Susie 4 some love. So, the Austrian school believes it is possible to discover the truth simply by thinking aloud, which might be why they're considered crazy. But anyway, interestingly, this group does have unique insights into some of the most important economic issues of our times. Read on to find out how the Austrian School of Economics has evolved and where it stands in the world of economic thought. I don't know why, I just felt like reading it like that. Karl Menger, an Austrian economist who wrote Principles of Economics in 1871, is considered by many to be the founder of the Austrian School of Economics. The key ideas of the Austrian school have evolved over the years through the input of various economists. Other than Karl Menger, the Austrian school also includes names like Ludwig von Mises, Eugene von Bauer, and Friedrich Hayek. And Ludwig von Mises, I hope, is what I'm using for my avatar today. Good evening, Matt Cheatwood. We have been discussing the classical and Keynesian theories of economics and are now talking about the Austrian school of economics. And good to see you, everyone saying hello to each other. Thank you, Matt Cheatwood, for showing, for your support, for your comments. Hope you find this somewhat informative, hopefully mildly entertaining. The Austrian school uses logic of a priori thinking to discover economic laws of universal application, whereas other mainstream schools of economics make use of data and mathematical models. The early concepts of the Austrian school contributed significantly to the theory of diminishing marginal utility. Understanding the Austrian School of Economics. What we know today as the Austrian School of Economics was not made in a day. The school has gone through years of evolution in which the wisdom of one generation was passed on to the next. Though the school has progressed and incorporated knowledge from outside sources, the core principles remain the same. Karl Menger, an Austrian economist who wrote Principles of Economics in 1871, is considered by many to be the founder of the Austrian school. The title of Menger's book suggests nothing extraordinary, but its contents became one of the pillars of the marginalism revolution. Menger explained in his book that the economic values of goods and services are subjective in nature. So what is valuable to you may not be valuable to your neighbor. I will give an example. My D&D books are highly valuable to me. My neighbor would probably use them as fire for the winter. Thank goodness the past election's over. Now we can move on and celebrate the holiday season ahead. Agreed, Mikey Susie 4. Gorilla's Random Thoughts, I should feel special. There are 8 live streams going and I chose yours. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Gorillas. I really never know how to be very, very supportive of all of these people because there's always so many streams going on. But I try to show as much love as I can to as many of the great creators out there as I can. And I appreciate you, Gorillas. I hope I make this worth your time. Matt Cheatwood has been enjoying the hell out of X the last 2 days. I'm afraid I have been too. So many leftist tears. Now, honestly, I haven't really been on there much in the last couple of days, but the week before, yeah. Many celebs who were for Harris are leaving the USA as we speak. Well, I, for one, shall miss only a very few of them. But again, I don't mean to talk about politics today. It's okay if you guys do, but I'm trying to going to try to stay focused. Menger further explained that with an increase in the number of goods, their subjective value for an individual diminishes. This valuable insight lies behind the concept of what is called diminishing marginal utility. Later on, Ludwig von Mises, another great thinker of the Austrian school, applied the theory of marginal utility to money in his book, Theory of Money and Credit. I so need to read that book someday. The theory of diminishing marginal utility of money may, in fact, help us in finding the answer to one of the most basic questions of economics. How much money is too much? Here also, the answer would be subjective. One more extra dollar in the hands of a billionaire would hardly make any difference, although the same dollar would be invaluable in the hands of a pauper. And I've been there. I've been to the point where a dollar was enough to bring me to tears. Mikey Souza 4, I would be so happy if that were true. Sadly, they're probably just pretending. They never said that. Focus on one, then later I put them on rewatch. Oh, thank you very much, Gorilla. You're very kind. And Jeff B, howdy, saying hello to everyone. Thank you very much for your kindness and your support. Let's be all right. And don't forget, Curtis, we get to make fun of Bruce Willis in Death Becomes Her this weekend on Miss Charlotte Nightstar's channel. That's right. I will definitely make that one. I've decided that this weekend I'm going to make as many streams as I can. Everybody saying hi to each other. That's wonderful. I still don't see why people are freaking out. Well, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's because I think all too many people actually believed the lies. And I'll be honest, I believed a lot of them. I didn't believe all of them, but I believed an embarrassing number of them. And the thing is, it's like I was talking with one of my friends today. You don't just have to do, it doesn't matter how much of mainstream media stuff you watch. Even if you watch 3 or 4 or 5 different sources of mainstream media, when you're batting somewhere between 60% and 80% lies, you're still not learning hardly anything, even if you listen to them for 5 hours a day. And I think this is the problem. And I don't think that much will be solved until we either shut off the mainstream media and go to alternative sources, as much as we may not like that, or until the mainstream media goes back to having some legitimacy. I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel like they've completely lost legitimacy if they hadn't already. Oh, yeah, Jeff B does need it. You're correct. Good call. Let me get that right now. Right now, there's no surrender. Right now, that is moderator. There we go. And what do you guys think about LDG? I think I'm going to make him a wrench as well, because I have neglected to do so. Here we go. All right. There we go. Hopefully I've got nearly everyone who deserves to be a moderator wrenched in here. Howdy, howdy, Darth Plato. Welcome. And you always have thoughtful comments and a really lovely picture of Batgirl. Jeff B, thank you for your thoughts on Miss Susie. Did I miss something? That's okay. Oh, I did. Hi, Curtis. Mikey, hope Susie is well. Yeah. I hope so too, sir. I hope so too. Prayers are going up for y'all. DJ Ronnie G, those who genuinely chose Kamala only care about abortion. There are some like that. I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush, but I do know of at least a couple of my friends that was literally all they cared about. And I don't want to hop up and down too much about that because I'm a weird mix. I'm pro-life in principle, but when it comes to actual law and policy, I think that we should grant women as many rights as we reasonably can because, well, I'm just pro liberty. But in principle, I think that abortion is a terrible, horrible thing. And, I hope that that's okay. I don't mean to be hateful at all. If someone's had an abortion, it's not my place to judge you. You made a tough decision in a tough part of your life. But no, I probably sound like a crayfisher. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think the government should be punishing a woman for doing that, even though I personally think abortion is a terrible thing. I think it should be. I don't think it should be being used for just simple birth control. But again, I'm not a woman, so my thoughts on it are not real salient. Gorilla's random thoughts. My working theory is they live in such a state of delusion they actually believe what the media said to them, and that's exactly the truth. That's exactly the truth. Darth Plato, the Dems were talking about Trump as if an asteroid was about to hit the Earth. Yeah, they're freaking out. Yeah, I shut it off for a while, and then when I was dating the woman that I used to date, you know who I'm talking about, she watched a lot of CNN, and that was around 2020, 2021. So Darth Plato argues the media hasn't really been legit since the 30s, and I think that I don't know that I agree, but I believe that a strong case can be made for that. DJ Ronnie G, they've been fed fallacious headlines about Amber Thurman. It was a botched pharmaceutical abortion. The hospital didn't perform the operation soon enough. Right on. I don't know enough about that, but I have heard that. Darth Plato, let me know if you want a wrench. I'll be happy to give you one. Basically, the drug terminated the twins in her, but the remains caused sepsis. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. And then the media is basically using it for their political gain. That's disgusting, actually. I hate that happened to her. All right, let's give Darth Plato a wrench. Smooth operator, smooth moderator. Right on. You're very welcome. DJ Ronnie G, folks are so emotional about choice, they really don't want to hear anything else. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I really hate talking about it, because essentially, don't inflate the wrenches. Okay, no more wrenches for the rest of the thing. Orange fascist clown is a monster. I'm pretty open about it. I just want more honesty. Agreed. And I thought I gave you a wrench, Darth Plato, but maybe not, or maybe maybe you're able to refuse it. It's okay either way. Women should have exactly as many rights as anyone else. Agreed. No, totally agreed. Okay, for an example, I think, well, no, I won't go into that discussion. It's a relevant one, and I agree with your point, but I'm not going to get sidetracked into what I was about to go into. My bad, not yours, Matt. Because Amber Thurman was done a disservice when she was granted a pharmaceutical abortion while carrying twins. Anyone here hear about the 4B movement? No, I have not. Sadie would be laughing. All right. Let's get back to economics, but feel free to share what you know about 4B. Other than Karl Menger and Ludwig von Mises, the Austrian school also includes other big names like Eugene von Bauer, Friedrich Hayek, and many others. Today's Austrian school is not confined to Vienna. Its influence spreads across the world. Over the years, the basic principles of the Austrian school have given rise to valuable insights into numerous economic issues, like the laws of supply and demand, the cause of inflation, the theory of money creation, and the operation of foreign exchange rates. On each of the issues, the views of the Austrian school tend to differ from other schools of economics. In the following sections, you can explore some of the main ideas of the Austrian school and their differences with the other schools of economics. Economic laws of universal application. The Austrian school uses logic of a priori thinking, something a person can think on their own without relying on the outside world, to discover economic laws of universal application, whereas other mainstream schools of economics, like the neoclassical school, the new Keynesians, sounds like a superhero group or a rock group, the new Keynesians, hey! And others, make use of data and mathematical models to prove their point of objectivity, or to prove their point objectively. In this respect, the Austrian school can be more specifically contrasted with the German historical school that rejects the universal application of any economic theorem. Price determination. The Austrian school holds that prices are determined by subjective factors like an individual's preference to buy or not to buy a particular good, whereas the classical school of economics holds that objective costs of production determine the price, and the neoclassical school holds that prices are determined by the equilibrium of demand and supply. The Austrian school rejects both the classical and neoclassical views by saying costs of production are also determined by subjective factors based on the value of alternative uses of scarce resources, and the equilibrium of demand and supply is also determined by subjective individual preferences. Once again, the value of my D&D books. I'm quite willing, when I have the money, to spend 20 or 30 bucks on a D&D book. Other people probably wouldn't be willing to pay 5. Oh, Matt's got a link. Matt has got a link. The 4B move. Oh, it's a radical feminist movement purported to have originated in South Korea. Its proponents refuse to date men, get married, have sex with men, or have children. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Stallone was a great Judge Dredd. Stallone, I am the law. 4B is women denying men sex, dating, marriage, and children. Yeah, Said, is it Said or Sadi? Sultry jazz and R&B singer. I should know how the name's pronounced, but I don't. Who did Smooth Operator? Yes. I thought that was Tom's dog. I've seen some lefty girls saying they were going 4B. I support them 1,000%. Yeah, no, if that's what they want to do, 100%. Knock yourselves out. Matt, do the 4Bs want to stop procreation completely or selectively? Just for themselves. It is a purely voluntary movement. I'm behind them all the way. Yeah, as long as it's purely voluntary, 100%. I'll find a date somewhere else. You need to understand human nature before economics. I'd then move to physiocrats. Charday. Oh, Charday. Okay. Sounds like a very interesting conceptual movement. It is essentially a Darwin Award. Right on. A central Austrian insight is capital goods are not homogeneous. In other words, hammers and nails and lumber and bricks and machines are all different and can't be substituted for one another perfectly. This seems obvious, but it has real implications in aggregated economic models. Capital is heterogeneous. Now, I'm not going to go too deeply into it here, but they have those spiffy graphs, and basically the more guns you produce, the less butter you can produce, and so on and so on, is the theory of most of your economists. Keynesians have a slightly different perspective, or Austrians, I mean. The Keynesian treatment of capital ignores this. The output is an important mathematical function in both micro and macro formulas, but it is derived by multiplying labor and capital. Thus, in a Keynesian model, producing $10,000 in nails is exactly the same as producing a $10,000 tractor. The Austrian school argues that creating the wrong capital goods leads to real economic waste and requires sometimes painful readjustments, which to me just sounds common sense. I mean, if you need the $10,000 tractor, but you don't need $10,000 in nails, what good are the $10,000 worth of nails to you? I know you can sell them, but the Austrian school rejects the classical view of capital, which says interest rates are determined by the supply and demand of capital. The Austrian school holds that interest rates are determined by the subjective decision of individuals to spend money now or in the future. In other words, interest rates are determined by the time preference of borrowers and lenders. For example, an increase in the rate of savings suggests that consumers are putting off present consumption and that more resources and money will be available in the future. So, say you're saving money for the down payment on that house, or you're saving money for that new car. You're basically deferring your, I can't remember the term now, but you're deferring gratification. If they don't want to reproduce or grain resources for men, it can only improve the gene pool. Agreed. Mikey Susie 4. Capital goods have usually been defined as necessary foodstuffs and medicinal necessities. I thought capital goods is only the means of production. That I think both of those points are arguable. But yeah, I've definitely heard schools of thought saying that capital goods is means of production, factories, machines, and tools. I've heard both of these, but this is the one that I hear the most, is this one. And semantics do matter. They do. And Mikey, I one of us may be confusing a term. I don't know which, so I'm not going to hop up and down about it. Producing capital goods can only benefit starved poor communities having the surplus for emergency situations. It may be a different use of the term in a different context. Darth Plato, Dems party economics today is where the 19th century Dems were with pro-slavery movement. It's interwoven with their party identity as it was in the 1800s. The effect of inflation. The Austrian school believes any increase in the money supply not supported by an increase in the production of goods and services leads to an increase in prices. But the prices of all goods do not increase simultaneously. Prices of some goods may increase faster than others, leading to a greater disparity in the relative price of goods. For example, Peter the plumber may discover that he is earning the same dollars for his work, yet he has to pay more to Paul the baker when buying the same loaf of bread. Don't know how useful this is. The estimated annual inflation rate for the U.S. as of March 2024, 3.5%. I would suggest that that's bogus, but that's what they're reporting here. Problem is, same words get used in different ways in different settings. Yeah, no, I think that's what's happening here, though I could be wrong. I only got an associate's degree in business during my college years. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you don't know what you're talking about. I'm just saying that I've heard the other one as well, and I have my associate's degree not in business, but it was my minor. Uh, so again, not to argue with you, but it seems like I've heard both of those terms used for both of those capacities in different contexts. Darth Plato, elitist now and then. Remember, freedom for individuals is greater than freedom for government. Correct, correct. The changes in relative prices would make Paul rich at the cost of Peter, but why does it happen like that? If the prices of all goods and services were to increase simultaneously, it would have hardly mattered, but the prices of those goods through which the money is injected into the system adjust before other prices. For example, if the government is injecting money by purchasing corn, the price of corn would increase before other goods, leaving behind a trail of price distortion. And this is where it gets really thorny. Does it benefit somebody, and is it fair for it to benefit somebody if the government gives certain, basically, stimulus to one part of the economy, not to the other? Degrees are not nearly as important as critical thinking and good knowledge, which is true. Individual freedom is the only freedom that matters. I'll tell you what, I'm going to look it up, just not to get sidetracked, but let's look up what the definition of capital goods is so that we can kind of be on the same page. Investopedia. Okay, now, according to Investopedia, come on. Capital goods are tangible assets such as buildings, machinery, and equipment used to produce consumer goods and services. Capital goods are also defined as durable items and differ from consumer goods. I wonder if that's what you're thinking about, Mikey. Not to be critical, but I wonder if that's what you're thinking of. Consumer goods and services, which are the end product of production and manufacturing. But yeah, that's at least that's what Investopedia is saying. But again, it seems like I have heard that definition as well, Mikey. So I don't know if it just depends on where the term's being used or what. Matt Cheatwood, I guess I am an ANCAP. I want the government to have no involvement in business. Well, I definitely want minimal. I want as little as is reasonable, whatever that may end up being. The changes in relative prices would make Paul rich at the cost of Peter. Remember, the price of bread went up. But why does it happen like that? If the prices of all goods and services were to increase simultaneously, it would hardly matter. But then they give the example, the government is injecting money by purchasing corn. The price of corn increases before other goods. Okay, business cycles. The Austrian school holds that business cycles are caused by distortion in interest rates due to the government's attempt to control money. Misallocation of capital takes place if the interest rates are kept artificially low or high by the intervention of the government. Ultimately, the economy goes through a recession. Mikey Susie 4, individual freedoms matter, but then you still need to question, do individuals still want overseers, government, to protect our freedoms or protect us from outside interests or from ourselves? It is the question. My answer to that, and it's just mine, is that I want the government to protect us from outside threats. I want them to maintain law and order. Beyond that, I don't really want much from them. Matt Cheatwood wants no regulation whatsoever, no minimum wage, no credentialing for barbers, no social security, no public education. Now, Matt is a true well, maybe not libertarian. I won't try to speak for him, but but he's quite into liberty, which is why I love the guy. Austrian economics. Why does there have to be a recession? The labor and investment employed toward inappropriate industries such as construction and remodeling during the financial crisis of 2008 need to be redeployed toward actually economically feasible ends. The short term business adjustment causes real investment to drop and unemployment to rise. The government or central bank might attempt to circumvent the recession by lowering interest rates or propping up the failed industry. Austrian theorists believe that this would only cause further malinvestment and make the recession that much worse when it actually strikes. Market creation. The Austrian school views the market mechanism as a process and not an outcome of a design. People create markets with their intention to better their lives, not by any conscious decision. So, if you leave a bunch of amateurs on a deserted island, sooner or later, their interactions would lead to the creation of a market mechanism. The bottom line. The economic theory of the Austrian school is grounded in verbal logic, which provides relief from the technical mumbo jumbo of mainstream economics. There's considerable differences with other schools, but by providing unique insights into some of the most complex economic issues, the Austrian school has earned a permanent place in the complex world of economic theory. All right, so what's going on in the chat? The only purpose of government is to protect our rights from other people, other governments, and our own government. Gorilla's random thoughts. You have to define reasonable. Yeah, true. You're not wrong. Anarchist definition of reasonable is different than a communist. Yeah, or from probably everyone in the chat, even though we're all intelligent people. I would not doubt that we all have at least a slightly different, if not definition, at least different levels of expectation, perhaps, in our belief of how much the government should regulate. Gorilla's random thoughts. Matt Cheatwood saying communists should refrain from using reasonable as they refuse to use reason. Gorilla's random thoughts. Sounds like Matt is an anarchist capitalist. I started to read some anarchist works, but then I got sidetracked. Mikey Susie 4, Matt, your answer has been misused and abused over the last 200 years, unfortunately, in several instances. Matt Cheatwood, ANCAP, yes. Oh, that's what ANCAP stands for. And Matt Cheatwood, how do you mean, Mikey Susie 4? I'm guessing misconstrued, misinterpreted as my answer to your question. Okay, there's debate going on. For now, I'm going to stay out of it. Not that I don't have an opinion, but I just don't want to fan any flames. Love both of you guys. So there it is. Austrian economics. Now, I'm probably not going to have the time to make my argument, but I am somewhat of a mix of all of, since I've studied all those economics, probably not any more than you have, Mikey, but I've studied them to a fairly thorough amount. I think that they all have strengths and weaknesses, and I think that there's logic in applying each of them as it seems to come to a situation. I will admit, though, that since I've learned a little bit about Austrian economics, that has become more and more what I espouse. John Keynes, no, that avatar is actually Ludwig von Mises, the Austrian economist. So, Matt Cheatwood, I respect everyone here, Curtis. No, I know. I don't misconstrue it. I'm just tired enough. I don't know that I want to get into the middle of it right now. But I love you both, and you're both making good points, in my humble opinion. I am going to do a little something different, but just for a little bit. I first learned about Austrian economics from Ron Paul. And I didn't learn hardly anything in school about Austrian economics, but the first that I learned about Austrian economics was from his book, Liberty Defined. And so I'm not going to read the entire chapter on Austrian economics, but I thought I would read a little bit to you. I know I'm being a little bit pedantic here. I'll get into some videos here in a bit, but the phrase Austrian school or Austrian economics is not something I ever expected would enter into the vocabulary of politics or media culture. But since 2008, it has. Reporters use it with some degree of understanding and with an expectation that readers and viewers will understand it too. What time is Netter's Network? 10 o'clock Eastern. Okay, good. The phrase is often used as a synonym for free market economics. I don't object to this characterization, but it isn't exactly precise. It is possible to appreciate the role of markets possible, but without actually embracing the Austrian tradition. It's possible to learn from the Austrian tradition without holding a particular political position. Nonetheless, the tradition has much to teach us, and it goes far beyond the mere appreciation and defense of free enterprise. Asking if you're referring to my statement on the purpose of government, and yes, your answer on governmental purposes. I've already read a little bit about this. Karl Menger from the University of Vienna. He wrote that economic value extends from the human mind alone. It is not something that exists as an inherent part of goods and services. Valuation changes according to social needs and circumstances. We need markets to reveal to us the valuation of consumers and producers in the form of the price system that works within a market system. Menger built up a new school of thought in Austria. I've already read about this. The Austrian school champions private property, free markets, sound money, and the liberal society generally. No, mister, please. Oh, okay. So how has it been misused and abused, if you don't mind? The Austrian school, it provides a way of looking at economics that takes into account the unpredictability of human action. Absolutely no one can quantitatively know the future, and the huge role of human choice in the way economies work. In markets, consumers drive decisions over production, and explains how it is that order can emerge out of the seeming chaos of individual action. In short, the Austrian school provides the most robust defense of the economic system of the free society that has ever been made. This is why this is Ron Paul, often refer people to the Austrian school rather than speak about Adam Smith and the classical school, much less other schools of thought, such as the Keynesian or Marxist schools. People often forget that economists are not mere technicians who follow numbers. They're philosophers of sorts, thinkers who carry around certain assumptions about the way the economy works and society is built. The Austrian school has achieved mainstream status before the so-called Keynesian revolution of the 30s swept away the older wisdom. John Maynard Keynes turned truth on its head. Now, this is his thinking, not necessarily mine. Arguing that saving is not a precursor to investment, but rather a drag on the economy. He conceived of the various sectors of the economy, saving, investment, consumption, production, borrowing, lending, not as integrated through the price system, but as homogeneous aggregates that are constantly colliding with one another. He imagined that wise central planners could know more than irrational market participants and correct for macroeconomic imbalances through manipulating market signals. More often than not, he proposed credit expansion as the solution to all that ails us. This entire agenda presumes the existence of a wise activist state that is involved in every level of economic life. Liberty was not an issue that concerned him. And he may be being a little unfair there, but I can absolutely understand why he thinks that way. Mikey Susie Ford has a lot to do with how the U.S. Constitution has been added to or some laws deleted. I'm afraid that I can't be more specific since I'm no longer an American citizen. One of my business, maybe you mean none of your business. It's still, I mean, you still have a thought and a theory, and your thoughts and theories are welcome here. He wrote at a time when the world fell in love with the idea of planned economy and a planned society and lost its attachment to liberty as an ideal. From that point on through today, the Keynesian system has been in charge. But in our own times, the Austrian school has made a massive comeback in many different sectors, including academia. And this is in large part due to the work of private institutions such as the Ludwig von Mises Institute to show that the Austrian paradigm makes more sense of the way the world works than the bundle of fallacies that characterize the Keynesian system. Ideas are very important to the shaping of society. In fact, they're far more powerful than bombs or armies or guns. And this is because ideas are capable of spreading without limit. They're behind all the choices we make. They can transform the world in a way that governments and armies cannot. Fighting for liberty with ideas makes much more sense to me than fighting with guns or politics or political power. With ideas, we can make real change that lasts. The Austrian school believes this too, because it places such a high value on the subjective element of economics and on the individual as a primary economic unit. We're not cogs in a macroeconomic machine. People will always resist being treated as such. Economics should be as humanitarian as ethics or aesthetics or any other field of study. And that was my introduction to Austrian economics. And I hope, even if you don't agree with Ron Paul, even if you think he's crazy, I hope you can see that I saw a great deal of beauty in that chapter. And even though I was always fascinated with economics, it also kind of oppressed me. It made me feel like, am I really just this dumb person that can't resist advertisements and is going to go down the road and buy this kind of toothpaste because Lady Gaga says so? This gave me hope that maybe individual choice does still matter. Mikey Susie Ford, teacher said our economic system may be broken in some places, but it still works. Of course, he said that during the late 80s, and I would agree with that. My opinion is that it is broken right now, but I am hoping, I don't know that I have much to lean this on other than hope, but I am hoping that it's not so far gone that it can't be fixed. Mikey Susie 4. My position is that our economic system has been broken longer than I have been alive. Yeah. Well, yeah. It does not work. It has been slowly grinding toward feudalism for over 100 years. Yeah, if I'm going to be honest and truthful here, forgive me for crayfishing and not meaning to disagree with you, Mikey Susie 4, but I think it has been at least partially broken since since the late 60s, if not earlier. And I think that in the 80s, it got a partial repair. I think parts of it got some glue or some duct tape applied. And then in the 90s, we coasted, or something good kept us going. Maybe the fall of communist Russia. I don't know. And then since 9/11, I think it's just been completely broken. And the only mild repairs we've gotten, I would suggest, have been during the Trump years. We've been sleepwalking into a two-tier system of elites and serfs, and I would agree wholeheartedly with that. Economics is an art, not a science. Jeff B. agrees with Ron Paul, at least in that. Yes, I'm not saying I agree with everything he says, but I will admit that probably of all the politicians I've come across, he's the one I agree with the most, which evidently makes me dangerous and crazy. Matt, that sounds more like overlords and slaves to capitalism all that time. Matt Cheatwood, because some small part of the population does not care how little they have, as long as they have more than anyone else. Right on. Okay. So why am I hopping up and down about economics? Well, for one thing, it's vitally important to how we vote, to how governments make policies, how we spend our dollars, how we budget. Money may be the root of all evil. The love of money may be the root of all evil, but the truth of the matter is it's also vitally important to our lives. There are some people, I married one of them, who measure people solely on the amount of money that they have. Now, hopefully, no one in this chat is. I don't think there's anyone in this chat that's that way. And you're still welcome if you are, but you may not find much of a home here. I don't think, but it is vitally important. You you if you don't have much of it, you can really suffer. And if you have a great deal of it, you have immense power over a lot of things around you. You can donate to campaigns, you can afford a campaign, you can lobby, you can buy businesses and then either close them down or fire half of the people. It's vitally important to think about and to know about to the best of our limited ability. Mikey Susie 4, money is an unfortunate necessity, still a viable form of trade and purchase of needed goods and services. So, part of my journey, and I'm going to tie this a little bit in with politics, but I'm not going to the Trump Kamala thing at the moment. But I'm trying to share part of my journey toward where I've gotten as being pro Trump, from having not been pro Trump, and then before being pro Trump before. So back and forth. Matt Cheatwood, it is not the love of money. Money is power. Power is status. Let those who would be first among us serve the rest. Amen. Well said. Well said. You both stated those points very well. And as I've discussed on here, likely unfairly, a lot of the evolution of my thought involved talking with friends who I loved and respected and still love and respect, but I learned that they had basically bought a lot of lies and were listening to some pretty dangerous elements. And I'm sure, if they listen to this, what the hell are you even talking about? I'm about to give an example. It's the only example I'm going to give tonight. One of my friends told me that one of their favorite people to listen to about economics was Robert Reich. And in my spinelessness, I didn't tell him what I thought of Robert Reich. While I am reformed, I used to be a hardcore conservative. And when I was a hardcore conservative, I listened to Rush Limbaugh, for good or ill. A lot of it may have been ill, but I will say this: I will forever love the man for revealing the biases and what we thought at the time were flagrant lies, if we only knew that the media at that time was honest and objective compared to what we've got now. But Rush Limbaugh made a laughing stock of Robert Reich. I didn't want to tell my friend this because, again, I've had a shift. So maybe he was the one that was right, and maybe I was the one that was wrong. And so for about a year or two, I'm not saying I listened to him in depth, but I listened to a few of the videos of Robert Reich, and really, I likely failed, but really tried to be objective as I listened to him. Let me go to the chat before I finish this thought. Greed is good, at least as a motivator. Yeah. That saying became popular in the 80s. It leads only to evil. Yeah, while I'm a capitalist, I know this is paradoxical, but I'm not a big believer. I'm not a believer in greed. I know that's got to sound backward. I think that there is merit in seeking honest profit. I think there's profit or merit in trying to make wealth, even if it's a great deal of wealth, by adding value to the community. But if it's not based on that, then it's greed. And I don't think that greed is a good thing at all. Take care, Mike Susie 4. Thank you so much for showing up and for your thoughtful comments. Say hello and give lovely Suzanne a hug and a kiss. We are praying for you. God bless you and take care. I will see you Saturday, sir. There is a difference from aspiring to have more and greed. Exactly correct. This is a great point. For greed, there is never enough. Exactly correct. Exactly correct. All right. So I'm going to share a video of Robert Reich's. I don't want to spend a great deal of time on it. What I decided to do is I tried to find his most viewed short video, in the thought that since that's his most viewed, that would probably be the one that's most fair to him. I have not listened to this, so we'll all be learning this as we go. But suffice it to say that Robert Reich seems to be one of the people that the left goes to for a lot of their economic theories since the 90s. Now, again, to reiterate, Clinton had a strong economy. So I can forgive someone for looking at that and saying, hey, Robert Reich actually is a really cool, great economist. We'll see what we think at the end. Matt Cheatwood, greed can lead you to lie, cheat, and steal. Exactly. Aspiration can lead you to make the world a better place. Yes. Dadman Walking, welcome, welcome. Not able to say, wanted to say hi and leave a like. Thank you very much. So far, it's been a pretty fun stream, or at least I'm having fun. I hope everyone else is. It's a little drier than normal, but I'm about to get into something maybe not as spicy as normal, but a little bit more so. This is Robert Reich. A couple of minutes on what Trump's victory means. It has 1.3 million views 24 hours ago. So one of the most viewed things that he's had. Let's see what we can learn from economics from his most viewed video. It wasn't spicy until Matt got here. There's some truth to that. But that's okay. That's why you're always welcome here, sir.
Try to hide it. I'm heartbroken and scared, to tell you the truth. I still have faith in America. I know we can do a lot to resist Trump's worst plans, but right now that's little comfort to the people who are most at risk. Today, millions must now live in fear of being swept up by Trump's cruel mass deportation plan. Documented immigrants, as well as undocumented, and millions of American citizens with undocumented parents or spouses. More Americans now must fear that they'll be forced to give birth or be denied life-saving care during an ectopic pregnancy or miscarriage. Today, America has become less safe for trans people, especially trans kids, who are already at risk of violence and discrimination. Anyone who has already faced prejudice and marginalization is.
All right, let's pause it there. What do y'all think of that? It's drier because YouTube censors me. Right on. So far, this is fairly, in my humble opinion, and again, I haven't watched him in depth. I haven't written a doctoral thesis on this guy, but this so far seems pretty characteristic of the things that I've listened to him about. Does this sound like economics to you? Does it sound like an economist to you? I'm not trying to tell you how to think about him. I'm just asking those two questions. Does this guy not know that over 65% of Americans support mass deportations, is not in favor of democracy? So far, he is spouting BS that has nothing to do with economics. Well, Gorilla's random thoughts is rolling his eyes. Let's finish the thing. It's only another minute. See what he has to say.
Now in greater danger. Trump has also promised to seek revenge against his political opponents. Countless Americans are endangered now on a scale and intensity almost unheard of in modern America. Our first responsibility is to protect these people and resist these forces. In the days to come, I will have more to say about specifically what we can do to resist the Trump-Vance administration, how we can protect the people in harm's way, and how to preserve and reclaim our democracy. Today, I just say that if you are grieving or frightened, you are not alone. Millions of Americans feel the way you do right now. And together, we will comprise the resistance to the forces of authoritarianism.
All right. So, what is everybody's thoughts about Robert Reich? Just, I know it's unfair. You only have those 2 minutes, likely. But if you're getting most of your let me just suggest this. If you're getting most of your information about economics from this guy, what are you actually getting? Jeff B seems like a TDS sufferer. Sounds like Kamala's speechwriter or Jimmy Kimmel. Democracy, the majority rules. Good thing we are a constitutional republic. That guy is a shill and a corrupt servant of the oligarchs. So I've been kind of wanting to share this one for quite a little bit. One of my favorite reporters, and look, he probably does too much editorialism or whatever you want to call it. He is still too prone to give his opinion. But he does a hell of a lot better job of backing his opinions up with facts, in my humble opinion, than most journalists running around today. And that gentleman is John Stossel. And I'm going to share what came across my YouTube feed the other day from John Stossel's channel about a month ago.
Secretary Robert Reich.
Former Labor Secretary Robert Reich now makes videos like I do. In fact, his inequality media is a lot like Stossel TV. He also covers economic topics and reaches people via social media. His videos are also seen by several million people. It's strange. Reich does what I do, except Reich is wrong about most everything.
Top progressive economist Robert Reich.
The media call Reich an economist.
Economist Robert Reich.
Robert Reich, an economist who served as labor secretary.
Reich doesn't correct them, but he doesn't have an economics degree. And his video.
Any of the rest of you knew that about him? Because I didn't. I didn't learn that until recently, until this video. Sounds like an insurrection. Maybe he needs to get 20 years. Too small, damn it. What do you mean? Is the video too small? What's up? I'm not sure I understand.
Videos say silly things like this.
Do billionaires have a right to exist?
Ban billionaires, he says, because
There are only 5 ways to become a billionaire, and they're all bad. Number 1, exploit a monopoly. Does Jeff Bezos really deserve his billions for building Amazon?
yes, he does. I don't much like Bezos, but Amazon is wonderful. Its innovations lowered prices so much that Amazon cut inflation. Reich calls Amazon a monopoly, but the company isn't a monopoly. It has to compete with Walmart, Target, eBay, Alibaba, and more. If we choose Amazon, it's because it's cheaper or we think it's better.
Billionaires claim they deserve their riches,
Reich says billionaires don't deserve what they have because they
get money from rich relatives.
All right. What do we think? Oh, there's been a lot of chat going on. Gorilla's Random Thoughts is not amused about something. Yeah, I had heard that recently a few weeks ago. Can we add people like him to the deportation list? Typo, see my earlier comment. I had heard that recently. And send them to someplace lovely like Antarctica. Monopolies are protected by government regulations. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about the dangers of monopolies, and I'm not going to say that I'm not scared of monopolies. The one before that. Okay, so too small, damn it. I'm still not sure. Oh, wait, did I miss something? Okay, John said AOC maybe. Democracy, the majority rules. Good things we're in a constitutional republic. That guy is a shill and a corrupt servant of the oligarchs. That one I 100% agree with. I'm not sure I understand the too small, damn it comment. It's probably deep, but I'm not getting it. Sorry. Where are we at? Oh, yes, Matt Cheatwood. I want a government that is too small. Got it. Yes. Gorilla, yeah, Ukraine needs military-aged men. Ooh, he does look pretty fit. I think he's good for a battle or two.
The biggest study of millionaires finds few did. Billionaire Howard Schultz grew up in public housing. Billionaire Larry Ellison quit school to work odd jobs. He only got rich after founding Oracle. Jeff Bezos did get some money from his parents, but he grew Amazon with money from investors. For a long time, people called them crazy.
Each year it loses more money than it lost the year before.
They said Amazon wasn't viable. It would never become profitable. Capitalism rewards such risk-taking. But Reich says,
If capitalism were working properly, billionaires would have gone the way of the dodo.
but the
So what do you think about that? If capitalism were working well, there would be no billionaires. And look, I've had that talk about, some of these billionaires have so much money and it's so crazy. And do they really add that much value to the world? It's an argument I'm willing to listen to, but at the same time, I don't know that an efficient economy would end up being rid of billionaires. I don't know how do you come up with that? I don't know. This guy has to know how full of crap he is. I don't know, because a lot of people and at least one of my friends really firmly believes that this guy's cool and legit.
The opposite's true. Capitalism working properly creates some absurdly rich people. And that's okay, because we freely chose to give the money in exchange for stuff we want. As I've reported before,
if this represents the wealth of America, progressives would say the rich take so much that the poor just get a sliver.
They believe Hollywood scriptwriters who say,
it's a zero-sum game. Somebody wins, somebody loses. Money itself isn't lost or made, it's simply transferred.
But that's wrong.
It's not a zero-sum game. The makers who get rich by baking many more pies.
When the hated billionaires like Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk get rich, they can only do it by making all of us better off.
They only kept 2.2% of the additional wealth they generated for the economy.
Actual economist Dan Mitchell.
In other words, the rest of us captured almost 98% of the benefits.
Another Reich video.
What do y'all think about that? Do you think that's true, or do you think the actual economist is full of crap? He could be. I want a government that is too small to send a SWAT team to unalive a squirrel and raccoon. Agreed. Agreed. Justice for Peanut.
Trashes trade.
Global trade is good for everyone. That's bunk.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. Get it? Of course trade isn't good for everyone. Nothing is. But when it comes to improving people's lives, trade's great. It helps the rich and the poor. It's what allows everyone to get better products for less money. Actual economist Don Boudreau made this video about it.
None of us has a hint of how to make the majority of the things that we consume. Take this coffee, for example. The beans come from Guatemala, and they were brewed in this coffee maker from Switzerland. The container ship that carried the beans was built in Korea. It's insured by a company from London, and it's captained by a Frenchman who loves Turkish cigarettes.
Trade lets people specialize in what we do best. It's called comparative advantage.
All right. Jeff B., too bad Trump wasn't POTUS yet. He would have pardoned Peanut. Yeah, it would have been good if somebody had, if nothing else, they should have at least thought of the really crappy politics anyway. I'd like him to pressure New York into abolishing the New York Department of, is that the Department of, I should know what that is, but I don't, NYDEC. Oh, the Department of Environmental Conservation. Yeah, the department that did the dirty deed. Exactly. All right, let's see what John Stossel has to say about comparative advantage.
I'm good at reporting, but lousy at growing coffee beans. Coffee tastes better and costs less because someone who's good at that can do it much more efficiently than and I can specialize on my reporting. That comparative advantage multiplied by millions of capitalists makes everything more affordable. But Robert Reich says,
what if a country's comparative advantage comes from people working under dangerous or exploitative conditions?
I once asked Kenya's June Arunga.
Doesn't the United States have the responsibility to stop these companies from exploiting people in your country?
Exploiting people? Nobody in my country thinks about companies exploiting them. When there's a new company opening a factory, people are excited about it.
Trade creates opportunity. It's what's allowed 1 billion people to lift themselves out of poverty.
Now, my friend that introduced me, or thought he was introducing me to Reich, tried to argue that that's a lie, but I haven't seen anything that debunks it. To my knowledge, capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than than any other economic system anyway. There may be some other thing that is lifted more, like maybe science or I don't know, philosophy, humanism, but they don't care how it looks anymore than they care about the harm they do. Yeah, exactly. I don't think you're wrong. I wish you were, but I don't think you're wrong.
Families who once survived by doing hard labor on farms now live better lives. Ignorant politicians from both parties trash trade.
All these foreign countries that are coming in and ripping us off and taking our jobs.
Yes, trade does take away some Americans' jobs, but it creates more jobs. Companies engaged in trade create 60% of America's new jobs. It's why unemployment is low today and why the number of Americans who have jobs has been rising.
You hear this rubbish all the time.
Finally, Rice says it's rubbish to say Biden's huge spending caused inflation.
Inflation is caused by too much government spending.
Bunk.
He honestly said that with a straight-ish face. Look at all the millions of Ukrainians lifted out of poverty by the USSR in the 30s. Oh, wait. Yeah, exactly. Exactly correct.
Not bunk. When politicians hand out big amounts of cash, it does cause inflation. Reich blames corporate greed.
Mega corporations raise prices to increase their profits.
Greed is constant.
Again, here's actual economist David Henderson.
If it's greed, how do we explain when prices fall? Do oil companies just suddenly decide, I'm going to be less greedy?
As the Nobel Prize-winning economist puts it,
inflation is made in Washington because only Washington can create money. And any other attribution to other groups of inflation is wrong.
As I said, Reich, even though colleges pay him to brainwash students, is wrong about most everything.
Of all developed nations, the United States has the most unequal distribution of income.
Inequality media is a catchy name, but inequality isn't bad if the poor get richer too.
And that is the argument. Do the poor get richer too? I don't know. Does this quack not understand supply and demand? Well, that's just it, Matt. And again, I haven't gone thoroughly into Reich, so I may be being unfair, but when I watch him, I'm not hearing hardly a word about supply and demand. I'm not hearing a word about capital or capital goods or you know, I don't hear much economics. I just hear a bunch of really one-sided politics. I'm not going to say bad politics, but one-sided politics. And then you wonder why people can't make good economic decisions.
Inequality is not a conspiracy. It's simply what happens when people are free. Taylor Swift is a billionaire. Should our government force people to listen to me sing to make life more equal? Should government handicap Joe Rogan because he has more viewers than I do? Reich talks economic justice, but where's the justice in imposing rules that leave people less free? I wanted to ask him about that, but he refused our repeated offers of an interview. Maybe now that this video's posted, he will respond. I'll let you know if he does. Who else is promoting economic nonsense who you think we at Stossel TV should debunk? Let us know in the comments below.
And I'm just going to make this observation. Reich had about 1 million views in a day. Stossel had 382,000 views in a month. Even though he's presenting more actual economics. You can debate that economics if you want to, but he's presenting actual economics and not just a bunch of opinions. Frankly, that's all I got from the guy. And they may be just as valid as mine, but I would argue that they're no less. If he doesn't have an economics degree, it means that he is no more qualified to speak about economics than I or Mikey Susie for. We at least have some classes in it. quasi-Marxist crap. People are not equal. I know they're not. I don't want to hop up and down too much about that. I'm going to end the stream with my typical let's share pointless crap that I have seen on X and wanted to share with people. Hopefully, I don't get into anything embarrassing here. Hold on. Just in case. I don't want to share any tweets that nobody wants shared. I think I will start here. We probably won't get through all of the pointless things that I found on X, but let's see what we can see from the last few days.
Adding to your gun control agenda? Yeah, I think it's a great idea, but I mean, listen.
So people were saying that she doesn't want to take our guns. Elon Musk shared this. Now, maybe it's badly edited, but listen to it and see what you think of what she says.
Adding to your gun control agenda? Yeah, I think it's a great idea, but I mean, listen, I don't think we lack for great ideas. As I've said many times, we've been having great ideas for decades. The problem is that Congress has not had the courage to act. And that is why, from the beginning, I have said, my agenda includes attempting to get Congress to act, but if they don't within the first 100 days of my administration, I'm going to take executive action. Because what we need is action. Adding to your gun control agenda?
Okay. And I also found this old Ron Paul speech I wanted to share with you guys. Let me know if you can hear it, by the way.
I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous? What if occupying countries like Iraq and Afghanistan and bombing Pakistan is directly related to the hatred directed toward us? What if it is finally realized that war and military spending is always destructive to the economy?
I love that. War is always destructive to the economy. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds powerful, and I love to pursue that further. Kaplaw, Mark Monaklov, plenty of dual-pointed crap out there. Yes, sir. Mark Monaklov, all lies. She's a gun grabber. X audio, hard to hear a little. Oh, okay. Do I need to turn it up? Let me know in the chat if I need to turn it up. Don't get me started on 2A issues in the Dems. Okay, you can hear it. Okay, cool. My stocks, certain industries say otherwise. Right on. I understand.
What if all wartime spending is paid for through the deceitful and evil process of inflating and borrowing? What if we finally see that wartime conditions always undermine personal liberty? What if conservatives who preach small government wake up and realize that our interventionist foreign policy provides the greatest incentive to expand the government? What if the American people woke up and understood that the official reasons for going to war are almost always based on lies and promoted by war propaganda in order to serve special interests? What if we as a nation came to realize that the quest for empire eventually destroys all great nations? What if the American people learn?
All right. What did you think about that? Trying to think what else I want to share. Not sure if I've got that video. Yeah, there it is. Here we go. This was a video that Robert F. Kennedy shared. Republican, what is her name? Well, I'll just play it and see what you guys think of this lady.
For the politicians who don't understand that, they should go back to economics 101 schools to learn who caused high inflation. It's not the private sector. It's always the federal government who can print money.
We don't continue this disastrous tax policy.
Ms. Tomlin.
You are wealthy. You're worth $20 million to $30 million. How do you know about regular people suffering? Do you go shopping, go to Walmart, buy food? I talk to those people. And you pretend to be renter in Nashua a few months ago, moved back to run for this open seat with millions of dollars from Washington, D.C. insiders. And the millions of dollars. I don't have money to run a TV ad. And you pretend you are poor, complain rent is so high. You couldn't save that apartment for other people to rent in Nashua. Just go back to your $2 million home in Portsmouth. Please don't say that, because you do not understand regular people's concern. People cry in my arms on this issue.
Is just so dead wrong. You know, early in my career, if I could finish, please. Early in my career, I worked for Senator John McCain to take on Vladimir Putin. I'm banned from Russia for life because of that work.
All right. So, what do you think of this feisty immigrant debating with this neocon here? I loved it. I don't know if you guys are or not, but a World War II slogan, billions for defense, not one penny for tribute. Yeah, not wrong. But I do think that for some reason we've ended up in situations where we've tried to make it look like we were in World War II kinds of situations, and we just weren't. Or anyway, I don't mean to get into a debate with you, sir. I agree. I would really rather have a strong defense, and I'd rather have a strong military, but I just don't think that we become strong by going into wars that end up at the end of the day not being any of our business. But World War II was different. I'm not going to say that we shouldn't have gone in there. After Pearl Harbor, we really didn't have any choice.
And I believe deeply in the cause of freedom in Ukraine.
Ms. Tom Williams, 30 seconds.
You math cannot add up, okay? And I'm very good with math. Maybe that's stereotype for aging Americans. If you want to pay all the stuff you want to pay, then do your math. How are we going to pay for it? Show me the path. Borrow money from China or print money to drive up inflation. And you say Ukrainian flag everywhere in Nashua. I have not seen that many. As I said, if Democrats want to do this, billionaires want to do this, neocons want to do this, please do. Donate your money. So many people have died. It's time to bring peace and talk to the table. President Trump is talking about he will be for peace deals as soon as he gets elected. We cannot afford to engage in endless wars. And your husband, Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor, is causing world on fire because he's incompetent. He should get fired.
And Robert F. Kennedy's comment here. Watch this candidate perform a live vivisection on neocon chief Jake Sullivan's wife. And this gentleman that he shared it from, you absolutely have to watch Jake Sullivan's wife get roasted in broken English. It will make your day. I don't disagree. We need to get back to those values. Agreed, 100%. On the subject of inflation, Matt's about to say something wise. Why do we pay taxes if we can just print more money without causing inflation? Yeah, exactly. Why do we pay taxes?
And so I can promise you, Adam, and to all of your viewers out there, that this is the spirit I will bring to this work.
Ms. Tom Williams, how do you alleviate some of that fear and anger that's out there in this country?
Well, when your former boss 6 months ago come out to call all Trump supporters are garbage, and that's like a half the country become garbage, that's not unifying and positive. And it's been going on for a while. Your boss is the most divisive president since I come to this country. Talk about white supremacy. I mean, you are white, lots of people are white, and talk about MAGA Republicans are threats to democracy. You know, all those rhetorics do not help. I like to talk about American dream, how happy I'm here, how much I love this country. I want to serve the people. That's something we should focus on.
We've had time for closing statement.
The politicians who don't understand that, they should go back to economics 101 schools to learn who caused high inflation. It's not the private sector. It's always the federal government who can print money.
So there it is. Sadly, she did lose, but her campaign did get a really good boost from Robert F. Kennedy sharing that. So I love that woman. Yeah, I do too. I mean, she just says it like it is. And I really don't give a damn that her English is broken. It's probably better than my Chinese would be if I was in China that long. Lily Tang Williams, what an exciting day. I'm still trending on X. I made to the front page of Fox News, but she ended up losing. I don't have time, but I really recommend this Winston Marshall interviewing Brett Weinstein. Lily Tang Williams, I can't believe this. Thank you so much, Robert Kennedy Jr. I am honored to hear this from you. I have said that before. You are a patriot. You are a hero. Principle over party. Let's work together to our country. There is no place to call home after America. Robert Kennedy, Lily, you are my new hero. And this is totally unfair, but I cannot help but share it. Oh, my Klingon sucks, Mark. I have Kaplaw, I have Sopokor, and I have Kalis, which is a name, not really a word, but that's about all I got in Klingon. She can probably do more good on social media than in an elected office anyway. Possibly. Hopefully she woke up some people. So one of the big rifts between my friends and I has been Pizzagate. I don't really want to dive too deeply into Pizzagate right now because I frankly need to do more research on it. But my friends have pretty much asserted that it has been debunked, and I will still concede that at least until I do some more research. Having said that, Elon Musk shared "The Hammer of Justice is Coming." John Podesto's friend who debunked Pizzagate arrested for graping toddlers. Slade Somer, editor-in-chief at The Recount and friend of former Hillary Clinton campaign chair John Podesta, was arrested last month for allegedly graping multiple toddlers and babies. Matt Cheatwood never took Pizzagate seriously until recently. Well, I took it seriously when it first came out because I'm half crazy. But then I stopped taking it seriously. But now this is making me think I may need to revisit this. I mean, do we really trust this debunker now that we've come to find out that he's guilty of exactly what we were accusing the left of before? Matt Cheatwood, now I seriously consider it after Epstein and Diddy, etc. I may be revisiting it. Not necessarily on this post. I need to be getting finished pretty soon. The guy from the Young Turks, again, says some of the most cogent stuff from the left. As predicted, Democrats are all over TV this morning blaming different demographic groups for the loss. No, it's your fault. Democratic leadership is the establishment, which is despised. People didn't vote based on race or gender. They voted on how much they hated your elitism. I think he's 100% correct on that. He's still a lefty. I still disagree with a lot of the things he says, but I think he nailed that one on the head. Trust but verify. Correct. What do I want to skip to? I couldn't help but want to share this. Alex Jones, I formally accept the offer to serve as President Trump's new press secretary, which of course it wasn't offered to him, but First Marine veteran in American history to win on a presidential ticket. Semper Fi, brother J.D. Vance. I didn't even think about that until they posted this. But yeah, he's the first Marine to get that high up in the chain of command. Chunky yogurt. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but and okay. Colbert.
It happened again. After a bizarre and vicious campaign fueled by a desperate need not to go to jail, Donald Trump has won the 2024 election. Almost like you rehearsed that. The deep shock and sense of loss is enormous. Okay, but let's look at the bright side. This way, at least there'll be a peaceful transfer of power. Mike Pence, Ali oxen free. All day yesterday, I was walking around proudly wearing my I voted sticker. Today, I wore my I am questioning my fundamental belief in the goodness of humanity sticker. Now, they give those out. They give those out at the bake sale. Right outside. Now, as a late night host, people often say to me, come on, part of you's got to want Trump to win because he gives.
And honestly, I think I'm just going to stop it right there. Okay, got to go. Yeah, and we need to be finishing this up pretty soon, too. Thank you for being here, Gorilla's Random Thoughts. We will see you on the flip side. If you guys want to go to his stream after this, or if you'd rather go to the Netters Network, either way, Winston Marshall, I like to feel I made a small contribution to this wonderful photo. And here we have Nancy Pelosi just looking all kinds of wonderful. Bernie Sanders, it should come as no great surprise that the Democratic Party, which has abandoned working class people, would find that the working class has abandoned them. While the Democratic leadership defends the status quo, the American people are angry and want change. And they're right. Jeff Bezos congratulated Donald Trump. I thought that was nice and disingenuous. My name is RFK Jr. You killed my father. Prepare to die. You can't call half the country Nazis for 4 years, then ask for compassion. It doesn't work that way. Democracy was on the ballot. Trump won the popular vote as well as the electoral votes. Translation, the people flipping out about it are in the minority and don't understand democracy and how it works. Break free of the cult. Join the rest of the thinking, rational world. And last of all, Ren Gill shared this. It's not even pro-Trump, but it's just beautiful. We should be better to each other. So you like the Nazis? Excuse me? You want me dead? No, I said that we should. Trump is God. Thanks, Ren. No, that's not what I meant either. I said that we should be nicer to each other and less polarized. So you hate America? No, I've been there a few times. It's quite nice. Nice? It's Nazi Germany. I mean, it's very different. You're nothing like your music. I mean, I'm kind of saying exactly the same thing, just without chords. You've changed, Ren. So there it is. That's the stream. I'm going to call it. I hope y'all had a little bit of fun. I hope you learned a little tiny bit. Let's go out with the soft prone music. There we go. And I'm going to thank everybody in the chat before we go. Don't know how helpful it was. Hopefully it was at least a little bit so. For those of you who don't know much about economics, maybe it'll help cut through the cobwebs. For those of you that already knew most of that, hopefully it was a good refresher. Thank you for showing and for the kind comments, John Ponderero. Thank you very much for coming to the show and making the thoughtful comments. I hope you have a great stream, Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Connie Cleary, the faithful bird woman of YouTube. Check out her second channel, Fluff Chick Productions. Thank you for showing up, for your kind moderation, your advice on Cosme, your kind comments. LDG Free the Net, thank you very much for taking some time from your busy schedule. I am looking forward to us being set free on the net. Thank you very much, Real Way Nation Gaming Clips. Big Al Presents. Thank you for showing up and making comments. Thank you very much. Meow meow, Moira Kitty. I don't know, but I suspect she's probably doing a watch party somewhere as we speak. So if you don't want to go to Gorillas or Netters, maybe check out her watch party. Tim, the old man is Ludwig von Mises. DJ Ronnie G, howdy, and thank you for your kind comments. Check out his channel as well. He is very informative. Learned a lot about the Hawaii situation. I don't know why I'm saying it that way. Sashi, the man from the future, thank you very much for showing up and getting investment advice from the Tired Blogger. Mikey Susie 4, thank you for showing up and leaving the kind comments. Prayers for you, and I hope that you and Suzanne are doing well. Check out his channel. He does wonderful reviews of iconic 80s and 70s shows. Jeff B, thank you for showing up and for the kind comments. Darth Plato, thank you for showing up, making the intelligent comment. Picture of Batgirl. I can never get enough Batgirl. Oh, I missed this comment. Amber Thurman was done a disservice when she was granted a pharmaceutical... Oh, well, no, I did miss that one. Never mind. That was sad. Have I gotten everybody? So many wonderful people. Oh, look at all the lovely people. Dad Man Walking. Thank you very much for showing up and leaving a comment. I hope you are doing well in whatever stream that you are in next. Check out Dad Man Walking and his spouse, Mrs. Dad Man Walking. They make such lovely positive material. They're smarter than me. They don't talk much about politics. Mark Molnikov. My war stocks say otherwise. Kapla, and much honor to you and your house. And that's everybody. Poor Ren. I choose liberty. Back to the mines. Good night. Good night. Tough, dry topic. You made it entertaining. Thank you. I tried. Oh, I can make my own decisions. I don't want to buy your bridge. Yes. So it's been said, life is pain, and anyone telling you otherwise is trying to sell you something. I, in fact, am trying to sell you something. I'm trying to sell you on the idea that liberty is better than slavery. Freedom is better than tyranny. And like the Austrian economist that I am, I want to sell you on the idea that you are smart enough and wise enough to make your own decisions. You do not need big government or big corporations to tell you how to live your life. Thank you very much, Matt Cheatwood. You're very kind. Good night to all of you. And lastly of all, know that you are not going mad. You're going sane in a world gone mad. We can pray that it gets a little less mad in the days to come. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. I hope to see some of you at Netters Network in a few minutes. Spoon!